listening to America's Web Radio on podcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening.
All right, everybody, this is... Sorry about that, everyone. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. My name is Taylor, and I am the new host for Women's Wednesdays. So this is All Things Women. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And if you want to see us live, we are live on Facebook at America's Web Radio, or visit us online at americaswebradio.com and click on the YouTube link. So today we actually have Janet Phan with us, and she has a pretty remarkable story about being a single mom, being in the workplace, overcoming a lot of different obstacles, and in the end, getting her master's degree. So wanted to really just hand everything over to you, Janet, and tell us more about everything and start from day one.
Hi, Taylor. Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, great. So good morning, everyone. I guess I'll get right into it. So, a few years ago, I would say about 5 years ago, I was in college, living the dream, and I was in a relationship that was great at the time, and, I kind of had that mindset that I was like, okay, you're in college, you're about to graduate, you've been with this person for a while, then you kind of follow the steps of life. We're going to get married, we're going to have kids, live happily ever after. And I think that was the mindset that I feel like every young college girl has, especially when they're in a serious relationship. And so that was my goal. And so, but that kind of took a turn. The person I was with, we were together for a few years, and he proposed, all that good stuff. I happened to get pregnant during our engagement, and it was a little hiccup. It wasn't exactly my game plan, but I was like, hey, you know what, it's fine, we need a flower girl anyway. So it kind of worked out. And but a few weeks before the wedding, I had found out a few things that it kind of messed everything up. Found out some infidelity issues, and so the wedding got called off. And
this was 2 weeks before, was it not? Wasn't it 2 weeks before your wedding day, too?
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks before. So, it was a stressful time. 6 months before I actually I gave birth to our daughter, and so I had a lot of, complications with the actual labor process, and she was fine, I was not. Kind of almost died twice, but we're good.
It's terrifying.
And then I had the pressure of oh my gosh, I have to lose so much weight in 6 months because I'm married, and but so I lost a bunch of weight, and then all of this happened, and so I was it was a lot to handle in a 6 month time span. It was a lot of emotions going, the whole postpartum thing, and I didn't really know how to process it. I was just in a really bad state of mind. At the time, the person that I thought that I would spend the rest of my life with kind of, he just took a 180, and it was I didn't even know who he was anymore. And I was in such a dark place because I had moved to a completely different city for where my ex had lived, and I kind of gave a lot of stuff up. And so this was a smaller town, and by that time I also had my bachelor's, and so there wasn't a lot of opportunity. My major was marketing, and I was just a very outgoing person, and I wanted to work for a Fortune 500 company, sell my soul to the corporate world, all that good stuff, and I just felt I had so much more potential, but I just kind of gave it up for this one person to just stay in a small town and then hope to be successful from there. And at that moment in time, I fell into a deep depression. I won't sugarcoat it. It was stressful. I questioned, my will to live, and it was so difficult because I didn't want my daughter to see that. Even though she was an infant at the time, like, she didn't know, but, I mean, they know, like, just the vibe, everything.
Sense
so
it. Yeah,
it was hard. I was crying all the time, wasn't eating right, lost a lot more weight than I should have, and it was a very unhealthy environment, and it was stressful. I didn't know what to do, and, my ex, he wasn't exactly very supportive either. It was the complete opposite, and so it was like I didn't know. I was like I put all my eggs in one basket for this person and like that type of future, and then it just kind of went to waste. And I'm like, I don't know what to do now. And so at that same time, I got the opportunity to work in the social media department at GM. So specifically at GM headquarters downtown Detroit. And so I was actually commuting an hour and a half every day to work. And so it was a very stressful time. So I was dealing with all of that, and then I was commuting to work. And so I was like, okay, like I got my foot in the door a little bit here. But so I was just doing that for a while. And at the same time being a single mom, handling, just living in a 2-bedroom apartment that I could barely afford, because my ex had moved out. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and tackle on an MBA on top of that. And so I don't know why I think at the time I was just so depressed. I was going to therapy and everything that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to add on one more challenge that I didn't think I could succeed at, but I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it anyway, because it would just get my mind off of things. Like,
right.
There were days where I wanted to, I would make plans with my friends or whoever just to make sure that I'm not sitting at home and thinking. Like, my mind was like my worst enemy. So, I actually got into Central Michigan University, and I was super excited to start their MBA program. And from there, it kind of took on. People have told me, and they were like, you're never going to succeed in the corporate world. You're never going to get your MBA. You're a single mom. Like, you barely make enough to feed you and your own daughter. Like, you're never going to get anywhere. Like, people told me that, and I didn't know how to function, because I was like, the one mission I had in life, it was like, especially when people who were supposed to support you are telling you that, you're just like, well, maybe I won't succeed. But then luckily with my mindset, I'm like, let me prove you wrong. So
absolutely.
I worked really, really hard. I ended up getting promoted, so I'm a district digital manager now. So for specifically Chevrolet. So it was really cool. It was a great opportunity, and my life just started to really turn around. I ended up finishing my MBA in under a year, and I just graduated this past December, so it was really exciting.
Huge congrats to you there.
I don't know. I just lots of coffee, cried a few times, but I wanted to give up a lot, but I pulled through, and now I'm, moving closer to Detroit, and I can't imagine, my life is just so much different now than it was 2 years ago, and so, and it's crazy because I literally started from the bottom, and I pushed myself, and now I'm here.
Yeah, and going back to just the beginning when you were really happy, because, I mean, you thought this guy was going to be your everything. Obviously, he's the father of your child, and everything was set. You guys had planned, and you had your bachelorette party, and then sure enough, 2 weeks before your wedding day, all of this floods you, and you find out, that he wasn't all that faithful. And I mean, how did you handle that situation? Because I mean, I feel like a lot of women can relate to that. That's a really, scary thing. Like, did you immediately confront him? Like, how did you go about that?
I mean, it was not easy. Like, I will not sugarcoat it. There were days where I questioned if I wanted to live. It was, just, I mean, any mom out there would know, single or not, it's so stressful. It's like you're working like 3 jobs, And so in my case, I felt like I was working 3 jobs. I had my normal job, a job of being a mom, and I was working on my MBA. And so it's like, it was so stressful. And like, even during that time frame of when I was going through everything, it was a wake-up call, because I feel like I lost a part of me being like an independent person. And I'm not saying if you are dependent on your spouse or your boyfriend or whatever, that's totally fine. But it's like, I feel like us as women, we kind of, our head gets stuck in the clouds for a while. Like, we're just kind of like, oh, it's fine. Like, this is the future I'm going to have. And like, you just don't think about backup plans. You're just like, what if this happened? And so I was just kind of like, I gave so much of myself, and there wasn't a ton of reciprocation. And so it's kind of like, during that time frame, I was like, okay, I need to take a step back. This is a huge wake-up call, and you kind of have to do damage control. And you're like, you know what? Like, this really freaking sucks, but what's my next game plan? Now, okay, now I have to divert and go a different way, a different path, and be like, I'm so much better than this, and I will be okay. And it's hard, because you don't wake up every day feeling that great. There were so many days I would be driving to work and I'm bawling my eyes out, and then I get to work and I'm like, I'm good, And so,
well, you had 90 miles to be able to do that, so lots of time commuting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, it's not easy. I mean, sometimes if you need to take a minute, and I think that was also hard for me too, because I have a type of personality where I'm like, yeah, feelings, that's not a thing. I don't show my feelings. Like, that's a sign of weakness. I don't want to cry. I don't want to talk about things, because I think it's just how I was raised, especially specifically in an Asian household. Yeah, it's like, no, it's tough love. Like, get over it.
Right.
So yeah, but I learned to express my emotions more, where I'm like, hey, if I need to take a minute, go to the bathroom, cry it out a little bit, and then get back to work, we're good, And
so be it.
It definitely takes time for yourself too. So.
Yeah. And just going back to the whole, do we let it out or do we hold it in? And there's always the stereotype with guys. It's guys never show emotion. Guys can't cry. And that's for girls. Like, don't be a sissy. Don't be a girl about it. And I mean, I feel like that's kind of on women too. If we do show emotion, we're seen as weak. And that's a big thing. And I know personally that's something that I struggle with. Like, I feel like I cry maybe once every 4 months.
Yeah.
So, and that's if I watch The Notebook for like the millionth time. But
right.
I mean, that's something that you had to be able to manage. But we're actually, everybody, going to take a quick break. So stay tuned. We'll be back after these short messages. Again, this is Taylor with Women's Wednesday on America's Web Radio.
Want to give your family or loved one the perfect gift? Then go online and check out the TornadoBodyDryer.com. I love mine and the warm heat air massage it gives me after my shower. The Tornado Body Dryer is super. You'll love it, and you'll love having one in your shower.
The disease of addiction is a life-altering challenge, not just for the person suffering its effects, but also for the family and friends who support and love the one caught in its grasp. What should be the course of treatment? Who is the best person to render treatment? And what is the best place to go for the care that is needed? We know that you want answers to these and many more questions. Call 770-696-9862 and speak to a representative of the Atlanta Healing Center. They can tailor a program specifically designed to address the needs of the person suffering with an addiction or give you guidance as to where that help may be found. Information is the key.
Hey, Janet, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is the sound quality a little bit better?
You can also get more information.
Okay, yeah, David just fixed it. I don't know what was going on. Oh my gosh,
Yeah, you're cutting off.
Yeah, you're doing so great. This is amazing.
Thank you. Okay.
Awesome. All right, we're about to go back on.
On the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. This is Taylor on America's Web Radio, and I am the new host of Women's Wednesday, all things ladies. So today we actually have Janet Phan online to talk more about her story, being a single mom and absolutely just kicking ass and getting her MBA and proving everybody wrong. So now, Janet, you had touched on obviously how to handle first knowing that the man you were about to marry and the father of your child was not loyal, and that's a huge thing that, again, a lot of women can relate to. So as far as a support system goes, I mean, friends, family, you said you mentioned counseling. So, I mean, what would you recommend to other women that are going through that same thing right now?
So I would say keep pushing. Like, honestly, I mean, in terms of like a internal motivational thing, I didn't really have a ton of people. I mean, I had friends that in my family helped a lot, and honestly, like, hang out with your friends, make plans, and try new things, because I feel like the typical go-to is like, I'm going to go out to the bar and like just drink my problems away. Do not do that. I mean, I guess you can have like a girls' night, which is totally fine, but you don't do it frequently because you don't want to develop other problems. But honestly, like, trying new things. I started working out a lot more, obviously, revenge body, and and then I know it sounds really weird, but go on dates. It might be too soon, or maybe you haven't in a while. And there doesn't have to be any strings attached or anything like that. Like, you want to just get coffee and like just kind of step away from just kind of moping for days on end and you're crying yourself to sleep. Maybe just have plans and just go out on dates. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like, there was no commitment or anything like that. You're just like, hey, I just want to get out and get some dinner, And so, and then obviously that's like the small percentage of it, but luckily I had some great friends that stuck by my side through the worst. I mean, I want to give a special shout out for Stephanie Lee. Like, she is my literal angel. She like was my savior, and she literally saw me while I was just like, my face was on the ground and I'm like, I have no will to live, and she was like, you can do this, like, stop it. And I called her every day for months. I swear this girl probably got so annoyed at me, but she stuck by my side and she helped me through it. Like, leverage your friends, and like, because they will be there for you. Your true friends will be there for you and
Absolutely.
help you every step of the way. Yeah. So that's a big thing of it. And of course, all in all, therapy. It's weird, and especially with my type of personality, I'm like, oh, I don't need help, but just leveraging that, get counseling. Yeah, you can talk to your friends, but honestly, talk to a professional, because they will help you through that too.
So with your daughter as well, I mean, what does that relationship look like with the father, and how is your relationship with him?
So in the beginning it was difficult, because, you got to like split up time, and then there's like some legal things, but overall over time we worked out a system where we're like, okay, like, you can have her this week, and I'll have her this week, whatever. But it was very hard at first, because, you'll be lying to yourself if you say that, oh yeah, it was totally fine, like, there was no emotions or whatever. Like, there's going to be emotions at first. You're going to be like, you're probably going to want to get back together with that person, and it's going to be weird. And then you're going to have that fear of, oh my gosh, like, what if he gets a new girlfriend? Or, you know what I mean? Like, what's that picture going to be like? And you don't want to think about those things, because you're still so emotionally, like, stressed out about the whole situation, that you're like, I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with this person, and then now, like, that's a possibility. Like, what if, he's going on dates with other girl, and it's hard, because you're like, for months I was like, I don't want to go on a date because I don't want him to go on a date with another girl, and then you kind of get a little crazy a little bit, but it's true, because every girl's experienced this, and so, and then it was hard because the biggest thing was I was like, I don't want my daughter around some random girl, you know? And,
Right.
but then, you know, after some time, like, I had to accept that because I was like, we're going to move on to different people, whether we like it or not. You know, like, we will eventually find our soulmates or whatever. And I resented him for a very long time. I hated him. You know, I was like, he sucks. And then I was like, I'm out to get you. I'm going to make sure I, like, ruin your reputation and all that stuff. But then after a while, you kind of think about it, I'm like, all right, I'm an adult. And it's like, what he does with his life, you know, is what he does with his life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I know what's best for me. And you got to, I guess, you know, your revenge is your success.
Yeah.
Essentially. So.
And I love that. And I feel like so many women can relate to that of absolutely just despising the human that you thought could never in a million years hurt you and hurt you and bring you down to a point where you're completely broken in a million pieces on the floor. And at all the other times in your life, he was that person to be the glue and to hold you together. And not only is this person, you know, your old fiance, but he was also your best friend at one point. So that's extremely difficult to go through. Plus, on top of all of that, he's the father of your daughter. So coming from a family of divorced parents, it's not easy. My parents, started arguing back when I was in like 7th, 8th grade, and we just kind of went up and down on this roller coaster for so many years. And finally, it was really just the back and forth of, we're going to work it out. No, it's not going to work. We're going to work it out. Nope, it's really not going to work out this time. And this didn't finalize until just before my last year of high school. And it was crazy. And some people ask, you know, gosh, do you wish your parents were still together? And I just always say no, because one would have probably killed the other one. So,
True.
You know, raising your daughter and making sure she still has the relationship with her dad. I mean, is the time split? Is there a full custody on one side? Or tell me more about that.
So, yeah, right now we have joint legal and physical custody, and so I have her like every other week, and so we've been doing this for a while, and so if it changes in the future, who knows? But it's a good game plan we have right now, and it was really hard at first because especially when you have like an infant or toddler, and it's like, you know, maybe it's that motherly instinct where it's just like, I can't go a full week without seeing my child. Are you kidding me? And it's hard, especially when they're that
she's
young.
Your
but like
absolute everything. Like, what are you supposed to do? Mom is part of your title.
Exactly. And so, I mean, there were so many days where I would cry because I missed her so much. But I learned to use that time to focus on myself too. Like, I recently really got into, you know, boxing, and, you know, I'm like taking all these crazy like workout classes because I'm like, I want to just get like more tone and fit and stuff. And I have like time to do that. I have time to, you know, go out to happy hour with my coworkers or hang out with my friends. And so, which has been really great. I learned to kind of appreciate that time as well. So I'm not sitting there moping. So yeah. But I mean, we do have a good game plan. I think that both of our goals were to not create that type of environment for our child. You know, you want to make sure it's a healthy environment and it's not just us screaming at each other. And like, I don't want her to grow up thinking that's okay, because that will reflect on her future too. Yeah. So.
And I mean, that's the number one thing, is it's not, you know, mom fighting with dad, or it's, you know, ex-fiancés fighting. Like, your parents, and you've got to think about your kid and what she's going to think. And obviously, you know, from the sounds of it, your daughter's young. So you almost want to think like she doesn't know what's going on, but I mean, you never know. Like, certain things she could still maybe remember, and making sure she's raised as, mommy and daddy don't live in the same house, but mom and dad are both happy. And to really make sure that the kid is put first. Like, I can't stress enough. I mean, I don't want to throw my parents under the bus, but because I know my mom is for sure listening. But it can be really stressful, and it can, put stress on your kids when it comes to them having a relationship. So that's super important, and I am so glad that you two are able to come to that conclusion and say, you know what, like, we're not friends, we don't like each other, but we need to be there for our daughter, and that's exactly. So important. But we are actually going to go to another break, ladies and gents, so stay with us to hear more. I'm Taylor, and this is Women's Wednesday on America's Web Radio.
You can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan, and every family will save thousands of dollars a year. I'm Ellen Deal, and if you've been hurt by the Affordable Care Act, you can email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com to see if we can help. Small business owners, individuals, families, and baby boomers, email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com for 3 easy questions to determine if you can get away from Obamacare. I'm a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry and here to help you for all your insurance needs.
This is Ron Camacho, host of the Business Hour, on Fridays from 10 to 11 a.m. Join me as I talk with passionate professionals on a program that profiles the best businesses, business practices, and fascinating business professionals to get an insider view of how America works.
Want to give your family or loved one the perfect gift? Then go online and check out the tornadobodydryer.com. I love mine and the warm heat air massage it gives me after my shower. The Tornado Body Dryer is super. You'll love it, and you'll love having one in your shower.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. We are back. This is Taylor, and it is Women's Wednesday. So we have Janet Phan here talking more about her experiences being a single mom, and then absolutely just killing it as far as, building her career and going back and getting her MBA all at the same time. So Janet, now, when it came to just finding that job and making sure that you can support not only yourself, but another human, and this isn't just like a cat like I have. I mean, this is a living, breathing human. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, finding a job and going through those struggles, I mean, that's hard. Like, for those that have gone on LinkedIn and Indeed and just searched, like, that's really tough. So, having this job in the corporate office at GM in Detroit, how did you go about doing that and obviously making sure that your daughter was taken care of at the same time? Did you do a lot of this while she was with her dad, or tell me more about that?
It wasn't easy. I would say. It's funny because I literally applied everywhere on Indeed, Glassdoor, all that good stuff. And so it was super stressful. I think job hunting in general is super stressful because you're just like, you're going to interviews and then you don't hear back, and then they're like, and then they contact you 3 months later and like, oh yeah, do you still want this job? And I'm like, dude, I wanted it like 3 months ago. And so it was definitely very stressful because, especially going through everything, I was like, I am so desperate to just get out of this town. I want to go somewhere. I don't care if it's in Detroit or Grand Rapids or whatever. Like, I just want to get away. And so, and I think like it was the first step that I thought of because I was like, I always wanted to work for a big corporation and be in a big city and experience that. And so I just started applying at jobs in Detroit because I was like, you know what, this is going to have to be a commitment that I'm going to have to make because I had a feeling, I feel like I'm going to put a lot of miles on my car and spend a lot of money on gas, but I have a mission and I'm going to get there, and that's where it came about. I mean, luckily I nailed my interview, and it's important to make your resume pretty, pretty nice, and so even just the layout itself is pretty important, but luckily with my marketing background, I was just like, all right, this is how I should do my interview, and I made my interviewers laugh, so that was always a plus. And so definitely put your personality into it, and and I feel like people are afraid of interviewing because they feel like they have to impress themselves a ton in a really proper manner. And
Right.
I just kind of came in and had a conversation and thought of it like, hey, we're just going to have a conversation. If you like me, great. If not, maybe this wasn't meant to be. So you just kind of be natural with it. So
Yeah, and that's always the hardest thing, because it's really tough to shut out everything that you're going through. It's all of these different emotions, and the saying is always just leave it at the door, whatever it is. And obviously it's going through and just thinking like, gosh, like he did all these things, like I hate that guy, and I got to do this for my daughter, I got to do this for me, like I need to make sure I can keep a roof over my head, I got to feed her, I've got this, I've got that. And I mean, it's an endless whirlwind of all of these thoughts, and then you get the what ifs, and when the what ifs start, I mean, it's game over. Like it just gets so stressful. But doing that and going to get your MBA, I mean, for me personally, I just have my bachelor's. I have my bachelor's in public relations out of the School of Communications from Western Michigan University. So go Broncos. Sorry, honey. I know you went to Central, but I got to support my Broncos. But yeah, I mean, making that decision to go back and do your MBA, I mean, from what I've heard, that's not easy. And for me, I could not wait to be done with school. I was so excited to really be an adult and get out of this path that we had laid out for us for so many years, because it was, you go through high school, you know exactly what classes you're going to take, and then you get into college, and the end goal is graduation. So you think, okay, I've got to take this class and this class for this semester to take this class the next semester, and so on. And then after college, we just have this big open field to kind of frolic in, and it's, create your own path. Nobody's really had this laid out for you. And for you to want to go back into that craziness, would you say it was something that, it was kind of like a revenge body sort of thing, like I'm going to do me, but I'm going to do it 10 times better than it was before when I was with this guy? So do you think that may have factored into wanting to go back? Was it mainly for to up your career? Was it for your daughter? Just tell me more about that.
So I will admit, in the beginning, I was just like, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong, and so because when people tell you that you can't succeed, take it how you want it. Especially when someone tells me that, I'm just like, oh, okay, well, watch me, And so in the beginning, I was just like, oh yeah, like I'm going to get that MBA because I feel like, people view that, especially single moms or moms in general. Like, people don't expect that because, I see reactions where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like working on my MBA, and they're like, oh wow, like good for you. And I'm like, what? Like, I can't do that?
They're probably more like, how the hell are you doing it? Because if they're single, then they understand. Yeah, exactly. And so that was the biggest thing in the beginning, like where it was kind of like, I'm just doing this to prove you all wrong, whatever. But after a while, I also had some family influence, like my mom, the strict Asian mom. She was just kind of like, when are you going to be a doctor? And I'm like, Mom, never. But, and so there was like that expectation, but then no pressure, obviously. But then after a while, I was like, well, this is for Quinley, this is for my daughter Quinley. And I was like, I want to do this for me. Like, I shouldn't have to do this to prove other people wrong. Like, because at the end of the day, who's putting in the work? Me, And so I should do this as like a self-success just for me and for me only, because maybe other people might think differently, they might have their reasons. But for me, I wanted to push myself, obviously past the haters and past the judgments of me being a single mom. But I think that's important because at the end of the day, you're putting in the work for your own success. No one else's. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure people out there that don't, know what it's like to be a mom, or to be a single mom at that, and trying to, find this, not just a job, because there's a difference between a job and a straight career. And that's what you were focusing on. Obviously, you're with a massive company. So I feel like, not only just me, but some of these listeners could be thinking, how did you do it? Like, what was it like day to day? How did you manage raising a daughter and working a full-time job on top of getting your MBA? Was this an online type of thing? Was it something that was like a hybrid, that some of it was online, some of it you had to be on campus for, or was this on campus?
No, I actually did. Luckily, with our day and age, technology is great, and so they offer online degrees now. And so CMU had a great program that you can get your MBA online with a concentration in marketing specifically. And so a lot of people also don't realize that, because you have to take the GMAT, which is like that standardized test before you get into grad school. A lot of people don't realize, especially for professionals, that if you have enough work experience, or if your undergrad GPA was above, I think, like a 3-point or something like that, if you have a decent GPA, that you can actually get it wavered. So I didn't have to take the GMAT, and so which is really cool. And so
that's huge, because that's
testing. So
that test. Test anxiety for me, oh my gosh, I would have much rather written a 20-page paper or done a group project, which we all hated group projects in college. I would have done so many things to just not take a test, because test anxiety is a real thing, everybody. It is so real, and I would freak out. There were times where I will just never forget, and I don't mean to divert, but
no, you're fine.
I was sitting in my public relations class my last year, and we had a midterm that day, and I had mixed it up with another class's midterm. I thought that midterm was on a Wednesday. I walk in on a Monday morning, and the very first question was, what is PR? And I couldn't even answer it. I literally, and being in marketing, you understand PR and marketing are very similar, but I just remember kind of just getting up and walking out. And that's kind of embarrassing to admit, but it is so stressful. So, the fact that you didn't even have to worry about that because you had done so well in your experience up to that point, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's the standardized testing was great, but the MBA program was a little stressful. But everything was online, which is great because, if you have to, you could just roll out of bed in your jammies, and just, got to do this discussion board. It's nice because you don't have to, there are options. I'm sure there's hybrid options too. I know some MBA programs, you can go on the weekends and stuff, but I wanted to make sure that I spent a lot of time with my daughter. And so I was like, if I can multitask, that would be great. And so, and even on top of school, the whole dating scene was stressful because I was I don't have time for boys, I'm I got to get my life together. And so, but that actually kind of changed because, my current boyfriend kind of came into my life. We were actually friends before. So, and so that was kind of cool how that happened. And that was a nice adjustment too.
Yeah, that's incredible that, you were able to find somebody, and of course having this person be a friend and kind of have a little background on where you were. And I feel like that's something that's kind of scary going into dating after something like that. Obviously it wasn't a divorce, but it was very traumatic, and also having a daughter in the mix too. I'm not sure how I would feel about a guy having a kid. Frankly, for me, I don't really see myself ever having kids. So for something like that, I feel like maybe it would scare me. I don't know. I really haven't put much thought into it. But that's amazing that you were able to find somebody and, have that balance. So for anybody that's listening that may be thinking about, I do want to kind of pick myself up and do better, like taking up kickboxing. And for me personally, I love kickboxing. For anybody that is like really not sure about it, it is one of the best workouts, and it is the best stress reliever after a long day. And I'm sure, Janet, you can
Oh, it really
relate.
is.
Yes, you take out all your frustrations, you kick that bag, you punch that bag, and you just see the sweat dripping from you, and you're like, that is all the frustration. That is all my negativity literally just pouring out of me, and I feel so much better now. So, I mean, taking care of yourself, that was number one, because they always say, you know, you can't take care of one until you you can't take care of somebody else until you take care of yourself. And and doing that is massive. So you said that you had graduated in December. So this program was only a year that you had to do?
Well, it was actually a 2-year program. I did it in under a year.
So when you say under a year, everything is just really set up online, and you can just do as much as you want. Were there any sort of concrete due dates where you're like, shoot, you know, I've got my daughter today, I've got to work, I've got to do this, I got to do that, but I have to make sure this is done? Or was the schedule pretty flexible?
There were concrete due dates. It's mainly because they were 8-week classes, and so I doubled up on classes, and so like a lot of things are due on Sunday, and so it kind of gave me that leeway where I'm like, okay, I just got to make sure like this is due. Like I spread it out. So I'm like, I'm going to do this on Wednesday, do this on Thursday, you know, whatever. So I kind of like planned it out that way, which was kind of nice.
Good. So, I mean, getting back into the dating game, that obviously you wanted to take that time to do you and to take care of yourself, but can you tell everybody about some of those just wild dates? Do you have any that stand out where you're like, I just feel like this is way too soon, and then maybe another one that's like, you know, this was probably the worst date I've ever been on?
Well, I feel like there was a few that were interesting. I've had, you know, you get those guys that are like super clingy, and they're like, oh my gosh, I love you after 2 seconds, and you're like, whoa, dude. And
Red flag, run.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But like, and then you get a few where I feel like especially with our generation, you know, like there's that whole, you know, like, oh, I don't want to make anything official, but I just want to play with your emotions and all that stuff. And I'm not saying I was that person, but I would say like it was hard for me. Like getting back in the game is hard for anybody, especially going through something like that. And it's like I had a lot of trust issues, I had a lot of commitment issues, and so like I feel like sometimes I was the one who like ruined the date because I was like, you know, you're a great person, but you deserve better. Or it's just like I don't have emotions.
Not emotionally ready at this point. Yeah, but
exactly.
Real quick, I don't mean to interrupt you, Janet. We are going to take another break, but everybody stay tuned and listen in, because Janet is about to reveal some wild dates that she's been on. So stay tuned. Again, this is Taylor with America's Web Radio, and this is Women's Wednesday.
The disease of addiction is a life-altering challenge, not just for the person suffering its effects, but also for the family and friends who support and love the one caught in its grasp. What should be the course of treatment? Who is the best person to render treatment? And what is the best place to go for the care that is needed? We know that you want answers to these and many more questions. Call 770-696-9862 and speak to a representative of the Atlanta Healing Center. They can tailor a program specifically designed to address the needs of the person suffering with an addiction, or give you guidance as to where that help may be found. Information is the key, and the trained staff at AHC is here to assist. If you wish, you can also get more information on the website located at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Karuchak. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. and listen to the Doctor's Lounge, where you get a private insight into the conversations that doctors have amongst themselves. Join us Thursday, 8 a.m. every week.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. We are back with Women's Wednesday, all things women. I am Taylor, the newest host at America's Web Radio. I am also the media relations and sales manager here. So if you have enjoyed what you've heard thus far, and I appreciate you bearing with me on my very first radio show, but if you have any ideas or want to be interviewed and maybe want a show, please email me, Taylor, Taylor, at americaswebradio.com. So back to our show for today. So Janet was just about to go into some of these dates that she had gone on after everything that had happened. So Janet, why don't you go ahead and continue with some of these maybe great dates and maybe not so great dates?
No worries. So the bad ones, it was, I would say, you kind of get the feel of, at first I was like very serious, and I got kind of stressed out because I was like, oh, what if he's, not the nicest guy ever, or like, what if he's just not really into me, what should I expect? And so, but then after a while I was kind of like, you know what, this is just, this is like a hobby, it's nothing, it doesn't have to be like a serious thing. Like, I'm like, hey, you're just like an acquaintance, like we're just friends, and like, we're just going to get dinner, and so, but then obviously that didn't work out so well with some guys because they got more emotionally attached, and, but it's hard to like jump back into it because I had trust issues, all that good stuff. So, but yeah, I've had guys cry.
Wait. You've had a guy cry on a first date?
Well, it wasn't a first date. It was, I would say, it was like a few in, I would say, but it was very short-lived. Like, it was maybe like a weekend, and he was like very possessive, and he was kind of like, oh, you're hanging out with your friend, okay, and just like guilt tripped me a lot, and it was super weird. And so, be careful for those those guys. But I would say that would be like the worst that's ever happened. Usually people who are in the dating game kind of read the room, and they're kind of like, okay, like this is fine. But then obviously the great dates, I would say my best one, is not being biased or anything, is with my current boyfriend, because it was very unexpected, and he kind of came into my life at an unexpected time. It was kind of like a reunion kind of thing, and we were with our friends, and so it was something that I have never in a million years thought that would ever happen, because he lived in a different state, and so it's like, yeah, this is nothing, like we're just friends. And so and then, but now, we've been dating for almost a year, and it's been fantastic. So
that's amazing. And how did he feel? I mean, obviously you guys were friends at first, so when it came to your daughter, obviously for him, he was aware, but is that something that you kept on the DL when you went on these first dates? Is that something that, I mean, I feel like with social media, there's no hiding. I feel like it's so easy to find somebody on Facebook or Instagram and kind of stalk them before the date. So maybe some of these guys did, maybe they didn't. But if they didn't, was that something that you brought up?
The Sort of. It was kind of nice. I could think I had a benefit. We both did because we already knew each other since high school, I think we didn't really keep it on the down low. Really, we kind of were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're kind of like talking or dating, and then our friends were like completely shocked on both ends because they were like, whoa, and like. Obviously, his friends were like, how do you feel about her having a kid? And then, my friends were just like, oh, like, really? I heard he has a past. And so I'm like, okay, well, everyone has. So it was just, everyone was just shocked on both ends. But then what's nice about Tyler is that he's the most understanding person ever, and he's so patient. And he was nervous at first because it's like, I feel like, if you're dating anyone that has a kid, you're like, whoa, like you have your reservations because it's just like, a lot of people are like, oh, that's just extra baggage. Like, I don't want to deal with that. And then I have to feel like I have to have like a motherly figure or like a fatherly figure, and I'm not ready for that. And so, which is totally fine. I'm sure he felt that way. And so, but like over time, like I was very upfront with him, and I was like, hey, this is the expectation. Like, totally okay if you cannot handle this. Not a big deal. I have a lot of baggage. It's true. And so, but he was like, no, I'm like in this, for the long run. And he fell in love with Quinn. Like, he treats her like it's his own daughter. And
I love that.
He absolutely adores her. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, I mean, for anyone else that has gone through something similar of what you've gone through, is there any advice that you want people to know if they have any takeaway from this hour-long segment? What is something that you really want to leave people with?
Don't be afraid to go outside your boundaries, and don't be afraid to love again, because, hey, just because that one person wasn't your forever, someone else will be, and don't go looking for that person either. They will come into your life when you least expect it. And lastly, do not be afraid to be a badass. Okay? You are Beyonce. Okay? Don't let anyone tell you differently, because
yes,
you
queen, yes.
And do not let anyone tell you otherwise.
I love that. Amazing. So now, before we do wrap this up, I really just want to give you the floor, Janet, because this is an interview, but this is also your time to really say anything and everything that you want to say. So we've got maybe a few more minutes before we close out the show. Now, if you want to talk about maybe some of your fondest memories going through this, or because we talked a lot about some of these downtimes, but obviously getting your degree or getting your MBA, I should say, is incredible. That's a huge accomplishment. But are there any things that really stick out to you going through this whole process?
I mean, just being completely thankful. I'm so thankful for my coworkers, my team. They surprisingly, it's crazy. Like, all of the friends that I've made just through work alone. They really, I look forward to going to work every day. And then I want to thank all of my, my friends at home. I'm so thankful for all of you, Stephanie, Megan, you guys are my rock. And then Tyler, I love you. You are the love of my life. Like, I never would have thought that, like, we would be where we are today. And I'm so happy that, we're going to start this next journey together. And, and for everyone that honestly reached out to me, like, there were people who reached out to me that I haven't talked to since high school, or I haven't even, like, I never would have thought would even reach out and be like, hey, like, I'm here if you want to talk, if you want to just talk about anything, like, you're not alone. And that's so crazy to me. It blows my mind because, like, I feel like regardless of what you're going through, there's always going to be a stranger or someone you wouldn't think would reach out that will reach out to you and be like, hey, let's grab a coffee, or hey, let's hang out. Like, what do you want to do?
Yeah,
and
you're not the only one. You're not alone in this, because as crazy as it is to think, like, people go through it all the time. It's so common, whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, or even when you're 50. I mean, it happens. For instance, I mean, personally, but my grandparents divorced after 51 years. Like, it happens, but there's always that chance to really find somebody that you truly love. And I am so glad that you were able to find that, and that you've really picked yourself up. And I highly commend you for everything that you've done. It's amazing.
Thank you so much, Taylor.
Yeah, you're welcome. And to wrap up, everybody, again, my name's Taylor. I have just recently jumped into radio, so I do appreciate everybody that has listened. And again, any new ideas, it's going to be super welcomed. So Taylor at americaswebradio.com. Send me an email, even if it's, hey, I really liked your show. That would be awesome too. That would make me feel really great, because honestly, I hope this went well. So again, this is Women's Wednesday, all things women. Every Wednesday, we would love to hear from different women, health, relationships, workplace, whatever. So again, Taylor Bird with Women's Wednesday, all things women. And again, Janet, thank you so much for coming on, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Again, Taylor with Women's Wednesday, and this is America's Web Radio. Tune in next Wednesday to hear more.
This is America's Web Radio.